Hey everybody, what's up? This is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook video about 90s games, Crystalpunk, badass. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have said the swear words. Uh, Too early. But anyways, this is a stream about those things on that screen, and also this game that I've been playing a lot. Um, Sorry, I was starting this a little bit later than I meant to, but I was like trying to figure out what exactly to put up on the screen. Anyways, but yeah, we'll be talking about the game revival of the retro 90s, early 90s games, which is great for me because I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm the creator of such retro games as Neofeud. You probably already know that, which is definitely a game based upon 90s games. Neofeud is a point-and-click adventure game specifically. Which also, speaking of the game Hedon, it does have overlap with that game because that game I'm kind of using as a thumbnail for this stream is also has a lot of adventure characteristics. Not specifically like Monkey Island, Space Quest. It's not a point and click, but it has very adventure-y characteristics in the sense of like, you have to like use information that you learn in the game and the lore and like investigation to figure out how to solve puzzles as a major part of the gameplay, as part of the gameplay. And Neofeud is not 3D, it's 2D, but it is also like a lot of it involves solving contextual puzzles, like use the retractable use the retractable Wolverine blade / letter opener to, I don't know, dig this object out of a wall of junk or other, just all kind of. And a lot of times in adventure games, it would be more comedic or silly, or sometimes they call it moon logic. But anyway, long story short, so Neofeud is another game that I've worked on. It is a 90s retro adventure game, and this game, Hedon, or I think it's Hedon. It's called different things depending on who's describing it and who's pronouncing. I think the creator calls it Hedon. Is a game that is definitely from like the Arx Fatalis. What was it? Arx Fatalis. Other 90s games like Blood. No, is it not Blood? Gosh, am I forgetting? I should have had a list of all the games to get all the references correct. World of Warcraft, in terms of the lore, is like definitely kind of like Warcrafty. Or especially like post Warcraft 3 orcs, but in terms of the gameplay, it's like similar to like Thief in some ways, and Hex and Heretic, and those kind of 90s games. And speaking of those 90s games, I'm just gonna give myself all the plugs right now. This is kind of definitely this is a big advertising day for me because I'm also I'm working on two separate 90s FPS games. Well, I should say the Terminus Cyberstar is a game. This game is a retro System Shock Deus Ex 1 style throwback game, which it's like literally a game in the 90s PC game vein, right, of the kind of immersive sims and RPGs of that time, and so and the graphical style is very similar in a sense. It's not modern AAA graphics, and this game is currently nearing completion. Although you can join the Discord and join the follow the Twitter at Terminus C to learn more about this game. This game is a sequel, of course, to Terminus Machina, and this is like some in-game footage of it. I'm the content director and lead writer of this, so full disclosure, I am directly involved in it. Actually, I saw that this game, Terminus Machina, Terminus Cyberstar, was involved in a few kind of sneak peeks, YouTube videos about some of the YouTube videos that are about all the latest and greatest in boomer core, immersive sim, and RPG revival. Like this is basically just general like 90s game revival, especially PC games. I'm not sure why this thing is slowing down now, but so the Terminus Cyberstar is a game that's still in development, but we're definitely like working on this game to try to get back to not get back to, but just like I kind of stopped playing games around 2005, 2006 because games are so feeling more on the rails, feeling more just really to be not so nice about it, dumbed down, or to be more polite about it, like spoon feeding the player in a very on the rails like theme park sort of way. The solutions to problems and everything was just very it was too like sterilized is another way to think about it. It's like and whereas like Deus Ex, Arx Fatalis, and those kind of 90s game System Shock, they kind of like let you kind of figure out you kind of like had to like the game creator let you discover, right, explore and figure out the solutions to problems, right? And it's different from like just a pure open world sandbox game where the whole world is you can go and literally anywhere, do literally anything. Like the Grand Theft Autos kind of went in that direction of just like, do you want to drive a car and crash it into a random store and then like shoot everyone on the street and have like non-consensual sex and then kill people that you're having sex with in various very questionable circumstances? We go do that, and it's like that. Those kinds of games kind of like I really didn't like the direction that gaming was going in. That was in the beginning of the 90's, and I was like kind of stopped playing games after that point. And there's many other reasons that I've talked about on this channel before, but Terminus Cyberstar and Terminus Machina, Terminus Cyberstar is a game that's trying to get back to like the immersive sims of the 90's, where like there's like very tight, well designed, tailored, like it's tailored, but it's also open. It's kind of like you're gonna get to this. In Deus Ex, you have to get to the NSF, the terrorist leader, as you're like you're a counter-terrorist agent, and you have to get to the top of the Statue of Liberty building. But there's like a nearly infinite number of ways to get there, and you, based on the skills that you invest your skill points in and your play style, whether you like stealth, dialogue, combat, what kind of like rocket launchers, and you have to like really be strategic about what kind of skills and tactics you're going to use. But based on those like kind of world systems, like there's objects that you can push and pull, there's these types of weapons, there's hacking, there's dialogue, and trying to like pay close attention to the story and the world, like listen to the characters when they're talking, just like click through, right? Because the modern games you can just like click through the dialogue, and as long as you just keep on clicking buttons, you just like mashing that mouse button or mashing them gamepad buttons, you're gonna get through it, and that's like that's fine. And I understand when people are like, I don't have time to think about anything, I don't care, right? It's like it's it's kind of like the story is kind of like if you if you care to stop and listen and smell the roses, if you care to read the dialogue, then it's there. But if not, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it's not just about the dialogue, it's also about like understanding the world itself, right? I think that one of the things about the retro immersive sims and the 90's and early 90's games is that it rewards paying attention. It rewards thinking, it rewards creativity, it rewards I see how it rewards like learning about, appreciating, and actually it's like being a good reader in a book, and I'm somebody who reads William Gibson on a regular basis. That guy's not easy to read, so I got it because I'm a cyberpunk creator. But it's like it rewards like people, it rewards like investigation, understanding, and learning about the world itself. I mean, if you're a world builder, right, you're creating this world, you want people to kind of appreciate that, right? And so with games like with games like well, specifically the first one that I worked on, and I actually this is I know I'm like not on the main game, but this is how I do my stream, so I apologize if you're like I just came here to see the hot demon chicks. But this is how I stream. I'm sorry. But anyways, Terminus Machina was the first game that I kind of made myself, and I was like, I wanted to. Oh, look at that! It's even in the Deus Ex wiki. That's cool. Um, uh, Terminus Machina was I was trying to take Deus Ex the first, and hey, what's up, Victor? Um, it's one of the really great system games I played. Yeah, yeah. So I know Victor is one of our fellow game dev veterans. Terminus Machina is an unofficial gameplay mod for Deus Ex, adding several skills, mechanics, and objects to the game. This mod has been known as the hardest Deus Ex total conversion. So I'm on the official Deus Ex wiki. So Elon Musk is a loser because he can't even get into the Deus Ex wiki. He loves this is his favorite game, right? The richest man in the world, or I should say, formerly. But anyways, Deus Ex. I like dunking on billionaire emerald diapered babies. I'm sorry, but Terminus Machina was the first game that I tried to take the world of Deus Ex, like I was talking about, that rewards investigation, that allows you to choose a diversity of skill sets and tactics and strategies to complete a mission. I think Warren Spector was the, if you don't know who Warren Spector is, he's the creative director, showrunner behind Deus Ex, as well as things like Epic Mickey, and he's a well-known game design legend in the industry. Famously partied with John Romero and might have fought him to a draw in Doom 2 deathmatch on the LAN somewhere in Austin, Texas. I might have made that up. Well, he does know John Romero though. But Warren Spector is an American role-playing game video, and so Warren Spector, once he said another cyberpunk tie-in. He's actually he was in a Dungeons and Dragons tabletop role-playing group with Bruce Sterling. And you know who Bruce Sterling? Bruce Sterling is a science fiction writer and friend of William Gibson. So this is, and obviously my biggest get was interviewing William Gibson, the original godfather of cyberpunk. But anyways, Warren Spector has said, like, he spent his entire life having played this particular role-playing session, a cyberpunk role-playing session, where Warren Spector was a stoic samurai somewhere in a Chinese city in a Bruce Sterling run cyberpunk tabletop RPG campaign. And Warren Spector says that was the most amazing group storytelling experience he's ever had. And with every game he's ever made, he's always trying to recreate that experience. Now, I happen to have interacted with Bruce Sterling, and I know that some people, in the cyberpunk and William Gibson, inside baseball group, Bruce Sterling has a very particular personality, and so he's not the let's just say he can be grating for some people, so I don't want to talk too much about his book specifically, but I've never been in his D&D. But long story short, let me not get too far into those weeds. I'm supposed to come back to talking about this demon chick game. Terminus Machina though I was trying to I do feel like the 90s games, partially because of who was working on them, right, and partially because of the kinds of games that were taking off, like Arx Fatalis, like Deus Ex, like System Shock, like the adventure games. I mean, adventure game, the point and click adventure game genre, it was, it was kind of side to the 3D shooter and Ultima, but it was happening simultaneously, right? So the point and click adventures like Monkey Island, while they did on the face of it, they don't share that much in common with the Ultimas and those. They're kind of like more. They're more specifically puzzles. I would say the difference is there are also 3D point and clicks like Blade Runner, Westwood's Blade Runner, right? Was also a 3D point and click. Sam and Max, right? I played some Sam and Max. But I say the difference between kind of as a obviously genres are spectrums. They're not like hard binary boundaries. We're gonna come to the queer indigenous perspective, but I feel like the Monkey Islands and the Space Quest and the LucasArts and Sierra games, which is Neofeud, is in those veins. They also like were about investigation, learning about the world, and so that you could like use you use the items that you have. Like for example, you have a What? Just trying to think about specific puzzles. Well, there's some moon logic-y puzzles like make a cat mustache using a pieces of scotch tape, a very skittish little kitty, and a sharpie to paint a detective mustache on your photo ID card, and literally use cat hair taped to your upper lip as a mustache. Those are. But part of the moon logic thing was it's about the comedy and the kind of silliness of the world. The worlds were silly. Monkey Island was not a hyper serious. It was not a Christopher Nolan world, if you know what I'm talking about. It was like not serious Batman business time. In Monkey Island and in Roger Wilco's silly world. They were lampooning a lot of science fiction, fantasy. Indiana Jones, which was popular at the time. But it was still about like learning about the world, like learning about the puzzles, right? Learning about like this character wants a this and you have a this. Use your carrot on the Bugs Bunny character. That's just a random example, right? In Neofeud, it's like use your this character wants help with their energy meter that's being controlled by massive corporate plutocracy, and they are running out of electricity because they're starving in the dark because someone blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. I'm just kidding. But, so hack this meter using this device, and you have to put items together to kind of solve these in-world puzzles. But you have to like really be kind of thinking and paying attention to what the world is like, how systems in the world work. Like when you try to hack power meters, they might blow your face off because everything is incredibly dangerous and destructive in Silver Spook universes. It's like cyberpunk universe, but 50 times more likely to kill you. It's kind of like the real world being a poor and especially non-white colonized person. The world is out to get you, and so you have to really be paying attention to Terminus Machina and in Neofeud. But it's kind of like when you learn how the world works, when you learn what the characters want, right? And you learn like how your items that you have in your inventory work, you put them together, right? But you see, the similarity I think between something like the point-and-click adventures of the 90s, something like Arx Fatalis, which is another 90s game that has some puzzly aspects to it. Games like obviously Deus Ex, which is about learning how the hacking system works. Let me get the original one, like this one. Learning how hacking works. Learning how, like when you if you have the skill, you can type into terminals and break into computer systems that can disable cameras because you're trying to sneak into places if possible. You're not like you. It's not just about mashing buttons. I think Warren Spector once described that. I keep coming back to Warren Spector quotes. This is just gonna be the Silver Spook unpacks his entire million item Warren Spector inventory, and all Warren Spector quotes. But Warren Spector once said, if I don't want the player to feel like they're just chopping wood, like shooting flaming arrows and just hacking things with a sword, like chopping wood. Because it's like he doesn't mean like literally. But how do you chop wood with your fingers hitting a keyboard? I mean, it's kind of like the monotony of just doing the same action over and over again, and then eventually you get through it. Often it's called like in RPGs it's like grinding. Like you just okay, we'll use this magic spell. I have this sword and I chop. Oh, now I got a bigger sword because I killed that goblin or that orc. And now I got a bigger, fancier sword. Or I got some money and I bought a flaming sword of fire. A flaming adamantium sword with like ninja zombie, elementals coming out of my butt because I can summon them. And I just got, so you basically beat up stuff, get bigger things like in a lot of RPGs. You beat a thing up, you get you have a dagger, you beat someone up, you get a scimitar. You beat the scimitar over someone else's head, you get a gladius. You beat someone else's head with the gladius, you get a great sword, and then a flaming great sword, right? And then a flaming great lightning ice sword of strength and coolness plus 20. And then you beat up God with it, and then you win the game. And it's kind of like, but you're kind of just, you're not really, again, it doesn't really involve like thinking about the world. And modern games kind of, a lot of times they kind of go in that direction. Not with that same armament and skill progression, but like you get the point, right? It's not really about It's not really about thinking about the world. It's not really about learning about the world. It's about just being a murder, hobo, genocider, colonizer simulator, where you go around the world, beat people up, take their stuff, use the stuff you've taken to beat more people up, and go up the technology tree until you're like fighting opium wars. You know what I'm saying? Or threatening nuclear war on the Earth. Anyways, so that was a real Silver Spook moment. but back to the immersive sims and the 90s games. But I mean, but the difference between like just, you know, using your best weapon and your best magic spell to blow stuff up, and like actually having to like think about, well, I think that's a major difference between, let's say, your immersive sim and your kind of like 90s style game, and those puzzly games, adventure games, and like, let's just call them like more dumbed down RPGs or more dumbed down modern, especially AAA games, which is that you know, you have to, it's not necessarily like you have to learn everything about the world or you lose the game, but the more like, because understandably people have a limited amount of time and energy in your life, especially when they're 40 years old and disabled like me, and so you're like, and you're working full time like me, right, with a full-time Silver Spook Games business that Holly and we got to run. You're like, I don't have time to spend, I can't spend 300 hours in your game learning every single thing. But it's like, it's not necessarily about like, oh, you just like have to spend so much time fully engrossed in the world. But it's like the time that you do spend in the world, that you do invest into understanding, this is how hacking works. Oh, when I push objects, I can climb the objects, right, and then stack these crates up, and I can get over this high wall into the facility I need to if I move objects around, right? That was new in the 1999 or 2000 when Deus Ex came out. I remember playing Liberty Island very vividly, and it's like, so the time that you do invest into investigating and exploring and understanding the world, and also enjoying the world building and the lore of that world at the same time, which works together with your, like, it's not, you see, so the more you understand and the more you learn about the world and the more you understand the systems of the world, those are like your upgrades. Those are your leveling up, you know. I mean, obviously there's also leveling with skill points and experience points sometimes, but like the more you invest in learning about learning the world, and then like using your ingenuity to like, oh, what if I try hacking this camera, moving this crate here, and then putting this bomb here, so that when the NSF terrorist walks by, they hit this tripwire, they blow that box up, and then this bot comes out of nowhere that I've hacked and kills them, right? So like the more creative, there's like nearly an infinite level of like creativity that you could use to come up with more and more ingenious solutions to things based on all these interacting multiple systems, right? And each one of the systems also like increases the lore, because you're like, oh, this is how hacking works in the world. You're like learning when you're reading the emails of the NSF terrorists, you're learning, oh my god, these are like human beings that have like, they're going on dates with each other. Maybe I don't want to just kill them. And that's a whole nother level of Deus Ex that was like, it really blew my mind when I first played, because like it was the first time you're playing a game and you're like questioning, should I even be killing these things that are on the screen? And it doesn't tell you you have to kill them, and it doesn't tell them, oh, they're good, you know. It was one of the first games that was like, you have to think for yourself, should you use lethal force on these entities, you know, because they're like, hey Jimmy, I'm gonna meet me behind the statue, we're gonna go on our date, you know, it's kind of like, you know, revolutionary left is where a lot of the, you know, the best romances are made. I mean, that's really true, because, you know, people like, you usually don't want to screw assholes, and most of the time in your mainstream Western capitalist world, you're surrounded by assholes and disingenuous liars. And so it's kind of like, but you're like these people that are terrorists that you're supposed to be taking out as an agent of the empire, but as an agent of the United Nations counterterrorism organization, UNATCO, right? Anti-terrorism coalition, right? And so you're made to kind of question, like, am I possibly the bad guy here? So all of that stuff is like, so that the game has lots of to say about, you know, it's definitely a left-leaning political it's kind of like an anti Tom Clancy story. It's a special agent CIA operative, but that there's like, I don't know if I'm on the right side. It's like, and so like there's that. The story angle has its own angle, but like and it's kind of like the immersive sim gameplay underneath that is what kind of empowers the story that it's trying to tell, right? The story and the Ludo narrative is also the narrative, in modern academic game speak, if you know what I'm trying to say there, right? It's about questioning everything, or like this is like question everything, but it's also like and investigate and use your own intelligence and thinking, and the way that you solve the in-game challenges and obstacles is by thinking for yourself. If you just run in and mash them buttons like a zombie, like a wood chopping, lazy, unthinking sheeple, as they would say in the 90s, as the goss would say in the 90s. No, if you just want to hit buttons, get bigger swords without really doing much of any thinking, then you're not going to get very far in Deus Ex, right? And so the story of Deus Ex, which is about the character thinking for himself, right? Should I just be pulling triggers for the world police, right? Of this Imperial X-Files encrypted Majestic 12 kind of code for the imperialist system. Should I so the characters, JC Denton is thinking about, should I be doing this? And you're also thinking like, should I be doing this? And also, how will I do this? Right? As opposed to just like, tell me what to do. Tell me where the waypoint is. I go to the objective. I get the thing. I get the gold. I beat up the bad thing over there. With some amount of eye-hand coordination prowess, I'm going to win. It's like you can't just do that. You can't just like I love Doom and I love those games, but it's like you can't just come into Deus Ex like it was Doom. Like Doom has its own, I mean, again, as I said, I love that game, but it's like there's something else going on top of just the first person shooter elements. If you just randomly run around, you can kind of get through most of a lot of the Doom levels. Maybe the John Romero levels, you're gonna have to think a little harder. But it's kind of like eventually you'll get through it. But in Deus Ex, if you just like run around and shoot, you're not really gonna get. Except maybe if you get really lucky on the easiest difficulty. But other than that, a lot of people bounced off of this game because of that aspect of it. And so a lot of people bounced off of Deus Ex because it like asks you to think about what you're doing and understand the world in a way that games before it didn't. I mean, it's kind of like if you were paying attention to the world, you can, and then you'll learn something. You'll get the lore and you'll get the characters and you get the story. But then with this game, it's kind of like it's less optional. Anyways, I feel like I've already talked about that a lot, and I said I was gonna make a video about this game. And full disclosure, part of the reason why I want to talk about Hedon, and I'm gonna get to all of the topics. I actually went back and forth with, it was either this one or Lenin, Goodbye Lenin, and I think I'm gonna get to that. But I was like, I'm so on this game right now just because I finished the first installment. I'm like started the second expansion. It's really like it's really Hedon too, but and I spent like 8 hours cosplaying this character, and I'm just like, I just like 50,000 people, like, when I go on my Twitter, like 50,000 people, 120,000 people are like looking at the Hawaii political education thread, which is, it's great. And that is what's important. But I'm all like, but also look at this thing that I spent 8 hours. I spent 45 minutes putting that thread together, and then it's got like 3,000 likes. And I spent like 8 hours like trying to simulate this character. I'm going to show you that later. You got to stay till the end. You don't get the fan service till you got to eat your vegetables first. Okay. You got to learn about Crystalpunk. And I spent a lot of time learning how to code in C and Lisp and turn Deus Ex into a completely new game with Terminus Machina. And so you have to go through all that process before I show you my pretty pictures. I know Big Teal is in the chat and probably has already seen it though. Anyways, with Terminus Machina though, I wanted to not reproduce, but I wanted to take Deus Ex and like take it to another level. and I know people who follow me, you already know what this is. It was pretty cool though. Another reason why I'm all in this is because um a lot of people actually know what Terminus Cyberstar is and Terminus Machina now, which is gratifying. Not a lot of people in retro. I mean, not in the sense of a lot of people know what Call of Duty is, but in like people who are into retro games, which is having a big revival. Like I was just watching this video of like 20. There's like 20 different retro 90s style games coming out this year. There's like 3 separate Deus Ex style games. There's System Shock Remake. There's System Shock 3. There's like so many games coming out. They're like, it's really like the heyday for this. It's a big boom in the boomer core FPS and FPS adjacent games, and which includes immersive sims, right? And first person adventure-y games. And so, which is great because then people are going to discover Terminus Machina. I just spent like a year. I spent like over a year and a half making the game, and like more times than that writing the game. And so which is again the hardest Deus Ex total conversion. So holy crap! There's like a whole freaking wiki for this. I didn't even freaking realize that. Wow. I did not know that this was on the Deus Ex website. So anyways, but yeah, I am the creator. Silver Spook is me. That is the creator of this game. And so, but when I created it, what I wanted to do was I wanted to kind of have people feel that sense of understanding the world. I wanted people to have the experience of interviewing William Gibson. No, I'm just kidding. You can't get that to Terminus Machina. You can only get that to subscribing to this channel and watching my videos, like the one where I interview William Gibson. But like in Terminus Machina, it's a game where you are being hunted by drones, and artificial, like you're a activist, socialist, homeless revolutionary. Silver Spook, codename. That's the character. The Silver Spook games comes from the character of Terminus Machina, who is dodging AI-powered, heat-seeking, hellfire shooting drones, like just horribly and ruthlessly efficient AI powered robot police who are just hunting you down just for being left of Joseph Biden, and wanting people to have food and medical care at all, right? And so your character is massively, and you're like jailbreaking iPhone factory worker slaves. You're trying to hack cameras and put upload malware and do Wi-Fi war driving on the cybersec corporate police that the Nexus hubs that power all of these drones and robots that are just mowing down protesters. So there's a general strike in the U.S. and then they just like mow everyone down with. They just shoot everyone with AR-15s mounted to the side of a 35-mile-per-hour running robot dog. You know the police dogs that they're giving to NYPD? Just imagine that, but then humanoid, and then they're just shooting everyone. So it's a very dark world, right? Where any resistance is just like exterminated by machine militaries powered by the richest, most malicious entities ever produced by global capitalism who are living in these giant mega banks. And you're just trying to get some gutter moss and shrimps that aren't covered in radioactive waste and catch shit to eat. You're like fighting with fascists, misdirected populists, white nationalists, the Washingtonians fighting to the death over pork and beans with, black and brown and mass refugees from the North Pacific garbage vortex that has all the world's global south are getting like dumped into this 1,000-mile wide plastic desert floating, made of broken Barbie dolls and plastic Fanta fruit juice bottles that are just all melted together in the Pacific. And then all these mass climate refugees are all flooding in, and then they're all fighting with the last starving Americans who are living in the dark with no electricity, with completely corporate controlled internet. So it's a very dark world is what I'm trying to say. I could go off on that for the next 6 hours, so I better stop. But Terminus Machina is a world where your character has to really, that's why I think Terminus Machina is probably the hardest Deus Ex mod. is because I am just unhinged and unfair. No, I'm just kidding. But although maybe I don't know, maybe I'm a bit unhinged. But anyways, Terminus Machina is the hardest. One of the reason why is because, well, I actually spent a lot of time playing this game. It was my first solo flagship game, and so I probably should have like readjusted the difficulty, because you know when you play and you play and you play and you play and with immersive sims, they're hard to design too, because like I said, there's like an infinite ways almost to complete games. So to see if the game is working, you got to play and you play and you play and you try like 25 different ways to complete the game, and then just to see if it will work depending on what skill combinations you use. And you know, I'm like one person with limited time, because I was working full time. I was working full time as a social worker and STEM teacher for homeless children and under resourced people in Honolulu, Hawaii, when I was working on this. And so I didn't have all the time in the world to test it. I wish I had more time. And if I had more time, I probably would have been like, oh shoot, this is like too hard. I gotta tweak it down, because I got so good at the game, because you know, you're just playing it. You know how to beat all the challenges by that time, right? Your muscle memory and your I'm like, oh, I know exactly how to beat this challenge because I've done it 1,000 times. And so I probably should have like decreased the difficulty a bit. You know, if you cheat in this game, I will, it's totally fine. I don't, I won't hold it against you. I've seen people play through this Terminus Machina and they cheat. They just turn on God mode and infinite skill points at the very beginning. It's like, if that's what you got to do, just do it. Because I don't have the time and energy to go back and tweak the difficulty on this, especially because I can't make no money from it. And I was basically like, I had to make Neofeud because I ran out of money. And like, I was like, I need to make money from this thing. That's my hobby. I got to like figure out how to like pay rent in the most expensive place in the most unequal country in the world, the United States, in Honolulu. Anyways, but you know my thoughts on that. So a lot of Terminus Machina is my personal perspective on things, having almost become a Goldman Sachs high frequency trading algorithm programmer, having been a programmer, and I was like, to make enough money to survive, I have to become a real estate agent or program, central bank quantitative easing, global imperial capitalist, code, in order to survive. I almost went to New York and became a literal banker, like a digi banker is basically what it is, or sometimes they call it quant, but. So a lot of Terminus Machina is filled with like that kind of angle, which cyberpunk is, when it's doing its job, I feel it's calling out the destructive systems, and it's an actual cautionary tale rather than a celebratory tale of the kind of corporate dystopias that it is describing. And so I was actually just reading Neuromancer earlier because I had to I was researching something for Neofeud too, but so you have to figure out, like, in Terminus Machina, you have to figure out how to use your hacking. And there's also wireless hacking. I added wireless hacking, crafting. You're a homeless bum. You live under a rusting, like Silver Spook, the character, that's my face. I just stuck my face onto a character. That's my first attempt at doing a skin job. And I don't mean having sex with a Terminator. I mean putting a texture on a humanoid character. And so Silver Spook's character is a homeless person who is, like a lot of leftists, they're broken. GoFundMe doesn't work anymore because the entire internet, if you say the word socialism into Facebook, Twitter, any of the corporate owned internet, you basically get blacklisted faster than Matt Taibbi talking about Substack, you know what I'm saying? And not just blacklisted, the cops come to your house, a robot come to your house, and then they arrest you with a bullet through the head, so it's like you have to be really careful what you do. Don't get spotted ever. It's like if you get spotted, you're gonna get hit with a drone strike, like a journalist trying to report on Iraq hit with an American drone circa 2009. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Obama did. And so it's very dangerous. And so you have to like think about where you are at all times, where the enemy is at all times, where all the cameras are. Never say anything to anyone that you don't trust. Like if you tell, hey everybody, I'm with HexGen, this this world class war global socialist left movement of hacktivists. They're like, people will turn you in. People will shoot you just to turn you in for 3,000 shillings. Silver is the currency in Terminus Machina because global dollar has collapsed. Oh, kind of like what's happening now. Oh, that's right. With the dollar being no longer the world reserve currency, as China, Brazil, China, Iran, and Brazil and Russia, etc., are all doing business outside the U.S. dollar in their own yuan and other currencies. But anyways, that is part of Terminus Machina as well. But that actually does come into play. So understanding how that world works, which is that the police are not going to help you with anything. It's San Francisco, but the police are not here to help. The police are here to kill you. So you have to understand that. Kind of like being, a left or black or brown person or a poor person or striking unionized person now, right? The police are not there to help you. You have to understand that the economic structure has collapsed, so you have to learn how silver works. Silver is the new currency, right? In this world there's only hard currency because you can't use Bitcoin because to log into the internet, if you log into the internet and you say anything, well, they might just track your IP address, they might just track your GPS location and send a drone strike to your house. So you're not logging into shit. You might be able to log into a very 14.4, speaking of retro, 14.4 BPS speed dial-up connection ad hoc mesh net with your fellow underground hacktivists, going from broken 3-generation-old mobile phone to a ham radio, right? There's this kind of there's these underground peer-to-peer community operated, or I should say shadow community operated mesh net, but because all the internet is completely hyper surveilled, and as I said, anything you do, that it's the Great Wall of America, it's the great authoritarian CCP, but it's not the CCP, it's the USP, it's the United States Party with Democrat and Republican halves, you know what I'm saying? So you have to be super careful with who you talk to, with what you say. When you go on the internet, you can go on the internet, and when you go onto the internet, if you do the wrong thing, then you get killed. So you have to so it's very hard because almost everything you do, if you try to shoot any enemy, you're dead. If you just try to shoot, there's police, there's the police that are hunting you down for, trying to feed people, right? And you actually, one of the missions is you have to go into Terminus Machina. You have to actually try to feed there was a Solarpunk pomegranate, genetically engineered plague resistant biologist, food creator who's trying to produce some kind of tomato pomegranate hybrid, or some kind of corn strain that will actually grow anywhere because the ecology is dead and there's no food for you. It's kind of like the eggs are $30, right? And then when people try to feed Black Panthers, and they just Fred Hampton your ass. So it's you have to try to get the seeds that the police have stolen because you're illegally growing your own food, and so then you have to there's many layers of the world, but and each layer of the world that you understand, the better you get. So okay, well, you have to be very careful with, you can't just be trying to you can't just be in these regions, you can't just grow your own. You are extremely limited in your degrees of freedom, and so you have to kind of and so nature punk is a skill, right? So the ability to figure out even how to use whatever organic matter exists, right? And okay, well, I can eat that, I can forage for that plant as food, and this hemlock corn is poisonous and I can use that for poison tip darts. So you have to really so each system that you learn, if you invest in nature punk, it helps you. It's a skill that helps you to figure out how to hunter gather in this hellscape urban landscape. Actually at one point I was thinking about it would help you in actually creating some kind of hydroponic garden, but you'd have to kind of do it underground because any above ground mass feeding operations will be attacked with a Hellfire missile. So anyway, I could talk about this forever, so I should probably stop. But the point is that Terminus Machina has hacking, crafting. You are incredibly disempowered, so you have to be extra ingenious. It's kind of the opposite, because see, like billionaires like Elon Musk and people who run giant Fortune 500 companies, these people are complete mediocre, talentless, uncreative, unintelligent fools, right? And but they're really malicious and really self-centered, and that's what they have, right? And that's how they run. And then they're born unto colonial parents, like Elon Musk, an apartheid billionaire beneficiary. And so those people, right? They, paradoxically don't have, any skills, right? And so Terminus Machina is kind of like the most talented, skilled person is paradoxically in a capitalist hellscape the poorest person a lot of the time. Well, I should say the person with the talent who actually is a good person, right? The person with skills and talents can hack, can craft, can produce all of these objects, has all of this knowledge, but actually wants to do the right thing, right? In a place like the United dying States, is the poorest person, because he doesn't. And part of the lore of Silver Spook was before he started like taking together broken phones and piecing them together with bits of microwave magnetrons to make EMP guns to shoot the robot police that are trying to kill everyone that's left of Joseph Biden. He worked as a programmer of the last AI powered, before ChatGPT replaced all of the journalists, writers, nurses, software developers, with the exception of the top tier. Silver Spook was the top tier developer, and before the 90% unemployment and all of the doctors, lawyers, and nurses were thrown into the bread lines that ran out of bread. He was a programmer for the military and the police of the United States as the robotic knight creator for the neo-feudal lords, right? And he quit though because of how terrible that a thing that was to do. And so now he's trying to hack the AI powered global plutocracy, or at least in this world, you don't really know what's happening in China. And so that is another point of this game that is, this stream is now just Silver Spook talks about his games and then gets lost in the weeds. But I guess the point I was trying to make before I kind of went off into why you should not die on the job, keep calm and scurry on, running on a literal treadmill on a rat racer 9000 to make $2 a day, which is obviously a metaphor for soul deadening iPhone 9 and Prada discretionary income producing office work, which was just a worthless rat race to the top of a staircase to nowhere, up a glistening palace of cards, right? Which is what Western consumerist capitalist culture is. But in this game, it was about trying to to understand all as much as possible about the world, which admittedly is a lot to understand. So you don't have to. You can just cheat. But it's also like the more that you understand, oh, this is how the food system works. This is how the hunger system works. Oh, I gotta really keep my calories up and don't run on treadmills. That's part of the metaphor is if you get on the treadmill and you go, I'll join this rat race and just work some crappy corporate job. I will drive 3 hours of my life to this office and slave away for some rich douchebag, guy who would have had a golden crown if he was born in 1700, who never did a day of work in his life, just like Elon Musk and people like Gates and etc. Right? If I show up to this office job and I work and slave my butt off, it seems like I'm getting ahead, but you're not. You're actually empowering your own demise by increasing the value of overpriced skyscrapers, right, that are towering glass, steel, and concrete, that drive a global Ponzi pyramid scheme. They're just the cities themselves are bank vaults of capitalism. The buildings themselves they're actually being destroyed. I just heard from my friend Megan, an indigenous game dev in Toronto, that Toronto buildings are coming down because office workers are figuring out that why would I come back to the office and spend 12 hours of my day driving and then working in this office that I don't need to be in, listening to emails listening to meetings that have nothing to do with me, writing emails no one cares about. I mean, I do that from home anyway a lot of the time. Why I gotta spend all this time in this office? It's because they need to take your home value plus the office value and another 1/3 of that for needless climate destroying parking lots, right? And then multiply the capital that is accumulated in global real estate into BlackRock and other mega banking institutions like that. And so people are figuring out, why should I keep doing that, right? And then, long story, I mean, God, I keep doing this, but so part of the point of the Terminus Machina, like the point of Deus Ex is, the Ludo narrative, like I was saying, right? Deus Ex is thinking for yourself and not just being a complicit stormtrooper with really cool gothic trenchcoat characteristics, right? For the Empire. That's kind of what it's saying. I think if you look far enough back into it, in the 1990s, when right before the Grand Chessboard was written by Zbigniew Brzezinski, and political science majors were some of the main writers of Deus Ex. I think that makes a difference. It's a lot of DC think tank inside baseball and lingo if you look closely at Deus Ex, and there's a reason for that. So what you're doing in the game is you have to think for yourself to try to figure out which side you're fighting on, right? And also trying to solve the challenges with the hacking, the crafting, electronics, and all these different systems. And in Terminus Machina, it was a lot about, trying to survive by not being taken along for a self-annihilatory game, not getting caught up in the churn, the cultural, social, and economic churn, the what do you call it? The cul-de-sacs that a capitalist Western colonial structure puts you into, right? And differently, depending on where you are in the tower, right, of capitalism, it depends on where you are. It's a different game, but everywhere along that you're in some kind of game, and you have to kind of figure out how to, as Silver Spook would say in the game, find the like every edifice has a crack, it has a weak spot, and find the cracks to break yourself out of the system that you're in, right? It's a very difficult thing to do when you're inside of a deeply conditioned, deeply propagandized society like the US. I mean, more people nowadays are figuring this out, but there's many layers of control and propaganda to keep people kind of stuck in that. And so that was kind of like the overarching narrative of Terminus Machina, I hope resembles or echoes the Ludo narrative, right? Which is trying to figure out how to break out of District 10. This kind of, I thought of it I was trying to reproduce, like, what if the horrors of the settler colonial US backed project that is committing genocide in Palestine in the Gaza Strip was replicated in Los Angeles or San Francisco? What if the drone strikes and the craters and the Fallujah war crimes in Iraq were recreated in New York City, right? What would that, like, what would, when the fringes of empire sacrifice zones recede into the core, in the heart, right? What does that look like, right? When the heartland looks like, when the atrocities in Vietnam start coming home, and the drones aren't just striking Afghanistan anymore, and they start striking inside, right? When the fascism that you put into Ukraine comes into the United States, what does that look like, right? With all your Nazi backstep and Bandera worshippers put there by Victoria Nuland and other neocons, what does that look like when it comes into your house, right? Anyways, but now I'm so deep into Terminus Machina, I gotta get out because I'm supposed to be talking about this demon chick thing. Anyways, but that's the kind of thing that I always liked about those 90s games. I mean, obviously, I love the story of Deus Ex. I love the story of, I'm a cyberpunk fan, big time, obviously. But also like the style of storytelling and the style of the gameplay. And so, to getting back into this game, because it's already 12:25, Hedon is not Deus Ex, it's not System Shock, but it is like similar in the sense that like you're exploring and investigating a very different world, because it's not a cyberpunk world, it's a Crystalpunk. I think it's specifically called by the creator Crystalpunk, so I'm using that term, because a lot of the world is powered by crystals. Let me see if I can get some screenshots from that game. So like in this world, you know, you're taking on it's a Crystalpunk underworld where visceral combat of a 90s FPS game blends with exploration and puzzle solving of classic dungeon crawlers and adventure games. So like Hedon is not so much an immersive sim. I would say it's not quite immersive sim. It's more along the lines of it's more adventure with FPS, right? A lot of the time, like, you know, the main character is how do I go? Oh, there you go. Yeah. How do I close the screenshots? There you go. Okay. So like the main character is, you know, a half demon, half orc called Zan that I have in fact cosplay. I will show you that later. Like the character that you're seeing on the thumbnail of this game. And so the half demon, half orc is kind of wakes up in the middle of the end of what seems to be some kind of battle, and you're kind of like tracing, you know, you're kind of trying to get back with your fellow warriors, the Iron Division. Sorry, I'm badly dropping this lore. It's just I'm just jumping right into it. But a lot of the time, you know, part of it is your fight. These are all like the fighting bits. I'm trying to find a scene that's more like the investigatory bits. Like you're investigating an underground world that is similar to the Warcraft world, I suppose, in some senses. The orcs have their own like kind of. What I liked about it, one thing I should mention that now, is the orcs they have a very like naturalistic and matriarchal society that's very similar to indigenous societies. I'm a native Hawaiian, so so there's the orcs and they're all women also, and I think the creator said it was kind of like I had an idea for like this it's like an orc Amazon society that kind of like exists underground, and they have a civilization powered by crystals. So there's like a lot of interesting. Like it's a I mean, I'm not reading tons of fantasy, urban fantasy, and steampunk all day long. So I'm not. Some of this is new to me just because I'm not super. I haven't consumed tons of that genre. I know of it, but it's certainly like in a video game I haven't like seen that explored exactly. Closest thing is Warcraft, which I think was cited as a reference. It's kind of like Warcraft plus Arx Fatalis plus aspects of the adventure games genre. And obviously it's made in GZ Doom, so it is like a mod of GZ Doom. And so you have like squad gameplay. There's like it's like modernized Doom combat. Like I did Brutal Doom was I believe it was Brutal Doom. The people don't play video games. I'm sorry. This is gonna be a little bit of an aside for you, but it's kind of like Brutal Doom's Hell on Earth. Or was it the Brutal Doom Sergeant Mark for tailor-made campaign just for Brutal Doom? It's kind of like, and it starts with a lot of it is a squad-based combat. You have like several teammates. That was never a thing in Doom, that follow and join with you, and they kind of work with you to fight. And there's like lots and lots and lots of intricate weapons, and it's a lot bloodier, and in a lot of ways it does make it a lot funner in a lot of ways. And you can sometimes it gets like well, I should say for modern games, like there's like incredibly gory modern games that I'm like I can't even like handle some of them. I thought Mortal Kombat was bad, and you can like see every micron of skulls fracturing and every bit of everything gets blown to pieces, and it's like, wow, I don't know if I needed to see all that, but I did. So but anyways, long story short though, it is a game where it has squad based combat, and it has for parts of it, and then it has intense combat, I would say, like strafing, classic Doom style, but updated combat. But then there's also lots of investigation and exploration, and you're learning about these characters, their underworld that they live in, the demons that are coming to invade. Like they have there's lots of backstory, and you're discovering the world in a style like System Shock, and which I'm very familiar with, and Deus Ex. well, you're not reading emails, but you're finding. Well, actually, closer to System Shock, but Deus Ex, you have a lot more conversation. There is some conversation, but most of what you're learning about the story in Hedon is through reading journals and things written on pieces of paper and on the wall and books and stuff. And so, like System Shock, mostly it's like sometimes it's audio journals where you have a voice actor reading, but it's usually the action has happened and you're kind of meeting up with you're entering an area like a dungeon or a field or a mansion or some structure, a cave where a battle has happened and you just showed up and there's like your fellow orcs are dead there and the demons and their very scrawny little very pale scrawny cultists creeps. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but I do like that part. They look like the 4chan Nazi fashy dickheads. What a lot of them look like. And then you get to chop them up with an axe. As like this like thick demon orc chick, and that's a lot of fun. So anyways, the character is catching up to this action after it's already kind of passed. And you're like learning, oh, this is how the crystals work. This is how the magic system works. So they have like crystal powered guns that like fire spikes. They have like there's parts where you do like blacksmithing. You're like find this metal and combine it with this to make mithril, and then melt that down and add it to this machine, and then you smith like a special, very powerful mithril based large piece of cogwork to turn this door. And so it's a lot of like that part. It feels very point and clicky, adventure-y, puzzle solvey. And then but it's it's kind of the same thing where it's like the more you're like paying attention, like learning about, oh, this is what that crystal does, this is what that, you have to kind of listen, you have to like read a little bit, like you don't have to like read everything, like the important bits are often like highlighted, like this is the key information in case you didn't pass third grade reading comprehension. Our kids, Holly and I, we have kids. The kids are going to be taking reading comprehension end of the year tests. So, in case you're not good at picking up on key information in a paragraph, this is where it is. Take the in case you failed at Space Quest 2, take the chicken, wrap it around the VHS wheel. Take the chicken with the pulley in the middle and use that to slide down. No, it's not that. It's not moon logic. That's not quite that. It's not quite moon logic. It's crystal logic. No, it's not that. It's not. I shouldn't say hard because some people like moon logic. So I don't want to insult all of my adventure game moon logic fans. It's just kind of like it's really silly logic. But anyway, so the more you learn about the game, you learn, oh, and these orcs use they have these mushrooms and other plants that they grow underground using these sorts of crystals as illumination, and they have these animals and they have these plants and they have different classes, like they have like the earth mothers, and then they maintain the they're kind of matriarchal, and then they also like make sure that the society internally is governed and functioning properly, and then like the people, well I should have looked it up so I can say all this properly, but there's the bear warriors that are like the big tank, they're like the tank in your Overwatch, right? Like the main character, and then they just like have the giant ass gun and beat up all the bad dudes and take all the shots and then don't die. And then there's like the witches, there's one of them, I think there's goblin tinkerers that invent new technologies like better Crystalpunk doors and steampunk devices, etc. And then there's the witches that are investigating new technologies, and they have new cooler guns like this laser arc lance. I forget what is the name of the lance. The Cry Lance, that's what it is. Yeah, the crystal powered lance. This is a problem when you're Silver Spook and you're like jumping between 25 different intellectual properties lore. You get everything confused in your head. I almost said the Cyber Lance, and I was like, no, that's the wrong one. But anyways, and so you're like so you're like learning about the characters, their world, their different classes, like how the world came to be this way, the demons, who they are. They're this kind of invasionary force coming from beneath to destroy the underworld where they live in. It's under the ground, but it's not in literal hell, right? So it's kind of like Doom's lore in some ways, where there's demons that are definitely the antagonists, right? That are attacking, but they're attacking the orcs from Warcraft. It's kind of like the demons from Doom attacking the orc society from Warcraft is kind of what's going on in terms of the civilizational struggle, or inter-civilizational struggle. And then there's minotaurs that are allies with the orcs, and there's some dwarves that are allies. It's kind of like with Warcraft. I think there were, if I'm not mistaken, in Warcraft 3, that was like one of them. That's the one that kind of I remember distinctly having similar kind of like indigenous coded lore for the orc. The minotaurs are allies with the orcs, and they carry these huge totem pole like tree trunks, and they like whack people with tree trunks, if I'm not mistaken. And so there are minotaurs allied with the orcs, and they're resisting the demon invasion, right? I'm not familiar with the invasion plans, but our sisters have certainly run this place through the blade. Yeah, I remember playing through that. I just played through that last night. You don't have enough material. Anyway, so yeah, and you have to there's like the puzzle bits is like there's a broken bridge. You have to like get the wood planks, put them together to fix the bridge. Just another random example of this. I think this is one of the dwarf characters. I'm cut off from the still. Once the tunnel is cleared, I'll get ruined. So yeah, there's like brewing. You have to like craft spells using different combinations of powders and potions, and there's a lot of witchy stuff going on there. So if you like witchy and sorcery stuff, there's like lots of that going on. We just watch. If you like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, you probably there's things that you might like about this on multiple levels. And then you're crafting. You're doing some magic. You're doing some technology. You're doing like steampunky, crystalpunk, smithing. There's all these, but each one of these things, everything that you do, you have to kind of be what the overlap between this and like those 90s adventures and immersive sims is you gotta kind of. You don't have to, but if you pay close attention to the world and the lore and how systems work, then you will be rewarded with not only learning the story, but also being able to solve the challenges in a way that it's not immersive sim in the sense that there is like there is a nearly infinite way to solve the challenges. There's basically kind of the way you solve them, right? You get the key item, you put the two key items together, and then you bring them to the place you're supposed to bring them to, and then the item is put in place, right? But it's still kind of like you have to think about like, okay, what if you could just run around randomly and just like go like like in Doom when you press the use button and you're like it looks like you're having sex with the wall, right? If I just keep using all the walls, I'll find 10 out of 10 secrets and 100% this Doom, and then I'll speed run it next time. You know what I'm saying? If you and then in Hedon, when you play it, you play with the speakers on, your partner be like, what kind of weird porn are you watching? Because it's the female character kind of moaning every time you press the use button, and so I won't try to reproduce it right now, but I'm trying to keep this as safe for work as possible. But anyways, when you press the use button everywhere randomly, you can potentially solve the game, right? If you just like you press use and run to every wall and just, God, what am I supposed to do here, right? You could potentially beat the game, but it's like gonna be taking you a long time, but if you if you read the journals and the notes and you go, oh, I'm supposed to take the mithril to the very hot furnace, then when you find the mithril, you're like, okay, where was that furnace? And you can mark it on the map. You're using the map a lot. And then you go take it there, you put it in, and then you take like a point and click adventure game. Like you could solve Monkey Island, right? If you took every item in your inventory, added them all to each other, right? Put the chicken inside of the ingot of gold. Take the gold ingot and use it on the random condom. Now you have a gold member. Use the gold member on, I'm just joking. But I'm just saying, if you just recombine all the items in your inventory, take every item in your inventory and click on every single inch of the screen, all 20 screens, you might eventually beat the game, but it would be like incredibly tedious, time consuming, and also you have arthritis by the end of it. So anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that so that's where like if you like investigating and learning about the world, then it's like and learning about the things you have, the items that you have, the world itself, the systems within the world, what is happening in the world. If you're like, that's what it is. If you're paying attention to like what is happening in the world, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to break the magic spells on these walls by reading the journal about what people just did. You're like, we tried. The demons have cast this banishment spell on this wall, and you can't get through that wall if you don't without breaking that spell. How do we break the spell? Well, you need to. There is a unconscious magical person, right? There's an unconscious magical witch that can break spells, but they're unconscious. What do they need? Oh, they need mana potion. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta go get the glass. Put the glass into the well of magical mana potion, and then take the mana potion and give it to the witch. The witch wakes up and the witch can break. So it's like if you're like paying attention, like because like if it's too late at night and you're like forgetting what you just did. If you have too much COVID brain fog, I mean, I'm sorry, it's gonna be a little harder. But then just use a walkthrough. But it's kind of like if you're like kind of paying attention to what the world is, what the character is trying to do, and like what the things are that are happening, and who is in there with you, right? Then you'll solve it, and you'll obviously like you're not literally fighting a demon invasion, but you do. There's a sense of like you were rewarded for paying attention to the story and the world building that somebody spent time and energy to craft and think about. It's all handcrafted too, right? That's the other thing. Apparently nowadays, like games are like super. There's a lot of procedurally. I mean, not to say there's something wrong with that, but it's like there's lots of like not so handcrafted, just on the rails, just churned out. I talk about this a lot. 1,000 people. 1,000 writers just write all kind of content and then just like throw it into a game and slap it together lackadaisically because some CEO needs to make $1 billion with all this money that huge investors are thrown at the AAA game, and it's not very handcrafted. It feels like a lot of people, there's 1,000 people who could have made like 200 really awesome indie games if they kind of made small 5-person teams or 10-person teams and told their story they really wanted to tell. But instead, you have 1,000 people making one giant bloated, fucking taking 10 years too long, yacht and mansion payment vehicle for some rich dickhead or 5, the CFO, the CTO, the CIO, and the CEIEIOs. They all got to yacht payments, and 1,000 workers got exploited, tired, fired without their severance packages like a Telltale Games, and that's why I hate AAA games. And you can watch Commander Sterling for more of that, thousands of hours of it. In fact, anyways, but whereas like Hedon, it's like the point is like you have kind of this massive, just like it's very U.S. military style. Throw trillions of dollars at it, fuck over millions of people, get them like sometimes killed in warfare with lack of armor under their trucks, and just like misdirected, misallocated, misused dollars that mostly goes to the richest people. And take all of the take people who could be applying their skills and talents in a very beneficial way to the world and waste all of that. That's just the AAA game industry. And so like the games that are like smaller and personally tailored, that like telling that not to say that you have to take your hands and personally code each 0 and 1 in the game, like you're some Starbucks campaign with some American washed up Hollywood celebrity taking a photo op with a brown guy touching the coffee to make like, we have fair trade, cruelty free coffee here, and Hugh Jackman gives a big giant hug. I'm not trying to throw shit at Hugh Jackman. I just chose him because he popped into my head. And he's just hugging that little brown guy, and he's like, "Oh, look at you handcrafting that coffee, so artisanal, much cruelty free." I don't mean like Although I mean, because you can have a shitty indie games too. But when I'm talking about, like, I'm saying like the person who is like writing the story and telling the story and creating the gameplay and designing the levels, right? It's like the original Doom creators. I mean, it was a smaller team, right? John Romero, John Carmack, Tom Hall. It wasn't a huge team. I'm not saying that every single one of those guys are like literal angels. They're all demons, obviously. They're like Azazel and Lucifer. You know what I'm saying? Or what was the Good Omens guys? No, but like all of the designers of the original Doom and a lot of the 90s games were just a bunch of people who at that time it was like mostly dudes, but we have thankfully more diversity now, I think, hopefully, in the modern gaming industry. But it was like John Romero, John Carmack, Tom Hall. They got together and they're like, we're gonna make this game and I'm gonna design this level. And they were like, John Romero did certain levels. You can actually tell if you look at Doom, right? When you look at Doom, you can actually tell. I'm just gonna throw Doom up on the screen. You can tell which levels John Romero designed. And I forget the other name. There's a few other designers, and this other guy who liked making these huge, expansive levels, whose name is escaping me right now. With tons and tons and tons, is like legions of demons, and you can whereas John Romero's design style is very tricky, very intricate, labyrinthine, like Byzantine, like trap upon trap upon trap. Like intricately designed levels. It's also he's a total. I mean, they're all metalheads, I guess, but John Romero is absolutely a metalhead. Trust me, I've talked to him and I've watched him on stream. I've talked to him and I've also like watched him in his streams. He's nonstop listening to metal while he's coding his stuff. And so he also has Sigil and Sigil 2, which is his own personally designed 6 to 8 Doom WAD, 6 to 8 level Doom WADs that he has released, and Sigil 2 is coming, I believe. Actually, I was watching him working on it recently. Anyway, long story short though, I'm not saying that you have to make games with 5 to 10 people or the games suck. There's probably a way to make larger games and then they not have wasted talent, gross exploitation, useless emerald diapered apartheid man babies making too much money from them, etc. There's ways to do that. I know that they are, because there are work cooperatives like Mondragon and Huawei, in fact, that are less fucked up, but that in games at least, I think it's like you can lose. It's at least as far as I have been able to see, you lose a lot of the spirit and the originality and the uniqueness of the expression when there's too many chefs in the kitchen and the chefs are having their back broken and sleeping under the desk and working 200 hours of crunch a week. You know what I'm saying? I think there might be more hours in a week, but I've worked at companies that have 100-hour crunch. So if you know what crunch is, you can go look that up on the Commander Sterling channel. Anyway, let me turn my thing on. So, but long story short, so like that's I keep saying long story short, it's never a short story. So 90s games, Crystalpunk, Badass. So, and so I kind of talked a little bit about the world and 90s games, and that's why the 90s games are not to say that every game in the 90s is great, but like that's a theme that was like a strong suit of the 90s. There's other problems, like games came on 22 3.5 floppy disks, because each removable storage device, which you had to get because there was no online streaming content of any kind, there was no DLC because there was no downloading, nothing. You had to buy the floppy disks at one point. Doom came on a box set of a whole crap load of floppy disks and then later a CD. And so that was now some people, like Holly has a friend that literally only sells retro paleo media. That's, speaking of Bruce Sterling, that's what he calls it. Paleo media products like VHS tapes of people's streams. I'm thinking of one specifically, the Kate Nick show. And so some people like that, but people ask, can I get Neofeud as 25 floppy disks, and I don't even know how to begin to do that. So I'm gonna leave that up to Brainbuster Video, whoever figured that out. Strin, hey, what's up, Strin? Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to all the chat, but I'm trying to get this video done. But yeah, 100-hour work weeks is crunch means like you're just working unpaid overtime because you just love your job so much, and then you get fired after Christmas. Crunch is mass hyper exploitation of workforces, particularly in games and in tech. That's what we're talking about. Anyway, so 90s games, Crystalpunk and Bada, Steaming. So yeah, and so I think I said it's okay. It's already 12:51. I should probably get to the last little bits. So since you stayed this long, here is the Silver Spook. This is me cosplaying the main character, Hedon. The main character is called Zan from Hedon. So this took me a lot of time to put together. I actually worked out to. I'm not, and obviously I'm not Chris Evans trying to replicate Captain America from the freaking comic books, but I actually did get all the clothes. Holly helped me put this together. I don't have the horns and I don't have the axe yet, and I just drew a red crystal shard. But that is Zan from Hedon. That is the demon orc hybrid. Snapping a selfie before going to slay at the club. So I'm gonna go to the club, and I'm just gonna take that axe and I'm just gonna chop all the fascists up. All those crappy freaking chud dickheads. I'm gonna chop them into little pieces and then possibly blow them away with the cry lance, and or the pain deliverer. There's this BFG, Crystalpunk BFG that you get. I haven't got it yet, but I want to get that and blow away all the fascists and anti-trans dickheads in the all over the place. I'm just kidding. In a video game, I'm not gonna do anything like that. I'm a very non-violent person. I'm not doing anything like that. But you better watch yourself. Stretch says, I love Silver Spook's long and drawn out stories. Well, I'm glad you do, because that's mostly what I do. When I'm not dressing up as the hot demon chicks, also I dress up as lots of things, but that's just one of them. Nice sword. The horns, I don't have the horns yet. I just lifted those straight from the cover of the wait, where the hell? Wait. So this is the character in the game, and then where's the So I took the horns straight off of the character right here. I don't know if you can tell that. I was still trying to craft them. That's the horns on top of the character. And I just took them off the character and I cut it in Photoshop. And then I stuck them on my head. And I took the axe from an in-game screenshot, and that's why it looks like a Minecraft axe. It's all pixelated because I don't have those yet. Okay, so that's why it took me a little bit longer to Photoshop this together. I'm still thinking about. I might put the rest of that together, but I don't have it yet. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that many artists to work to anyone. Victor says, the trans character. Are you talking about the trans character I was working on in a game? Or no? Anyways, I'm reading some of the chat. But anyway, so long story short, I'm gonna get to because somebody asked why queer indigenous. I saw somebody tweeted that. Well, I'm gonna get to that. Yeah. So that is me cosplaying the main character. I mean, I did like the character a lot. I have dressed up as multiple demons historically. This is not new. This is not new to me. Yeah, ask Holly. I have during Halloween and on multiple occasions, when I'm not dressed up like a creepy smiling emoji like in that picture, I am very frequently dressing up as demons. I've recently, and we're going to get to the queer part, but I've recently come out fully as non-binary, which is not non-binary gender, if you don't know what that is. and or also Mahu is the native Hawaiian third gender that I identify as in my own Hawaiian culture. But let me just is there? I know Holly has pictures of me doing the cyber demon. Let me see if I have the picture of that. This is gonna be a real rabbit hole. This is my cyber demon. I'm not joking. This was literally my avatar for like 15 years. Was the cyber demon. Now I'm half joking. That's not me. I just put my head on top of the cyber demon. But I also cosplayed I also went for Halloween in Waikiki as the cyber demon, and I know Holly has that somewhere. You don't have it? Okay, shit. I have it somewhere. Wait, let me see if I can find it. You got it somewhere? If you do got it somewhere, let me know. No, if here I'm gonna here watch. I'll find out. Watch this. Okay, maybe I wouldn't find it. I swear I have it. I know I posted it somewhere, but maybe I deleted it. But anyways, if anybody, here's an Easter egg hunt. Go find Silver Spook. Find all the 10 times I've dressed up as various demons, including the demon from Doom. So this is not the first time I've done it. This is just like the next time I've done it. But I do particularly like there's multiple things that I like about, as I said in the original post, there's many things that I like about the Hedon game, including the fact that it's a retro 90s game. I am a Doom fanatic. I'm literally like playing with the kids through like the entire Doom 2 campaign. Like we're doing like co-op playing. So like I've been into Doom and demons generally for a long time. First person shooters, obviously immersive sims and retro. I've gone into that a lot. So for those reasons, I like this game. Adventure games. I like this is up my alley, obviously. I'm not like the biggest fantasy fan, although obviously Game of Thrones is part of the inspiration, and it has fantasy elements in Neofeud, and I've been through Warcraft, etc., and all that kind of stuff. But I did like the lore of the. I did like. What did you say? Okay, so we're gonna get that picture, and you're gonna see the evolution of Silver Spook from like, just straight up cyber demon to like, going to the club chopping fascist demon chick. You can see the morphology of the Silver Spook history. Kind of like looking at Silver Spook from the looking at Silver Spook from the good old Terminus Machina days. You posted it. See, like, I feel like I've really softened over the years. I'm a lot. At one time I was so rigid and hard in my thinking. I only had like 25 polygons in my head. You know what I'm saying? I was literally like a 20-sided die head. I was just a young, hard, dude trying to be cool with a silver trench coat, very, very low poly. And now I'm like, well, I'm more well-rounded. It's like, I'm joking. That is a bad 3D modeler joke that I just made. I apologize. I did do that. Straight is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Okay, so when I'm trying to have, okay. Have you seen this? There's a character with the triangle boob thing. There. Okay, if you know what this is what I'm talking about. Okay, so low poly, I should explain this because people don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Low poly means Lara Croft used to have a total of like 35 polygons, or it's like maybe 90 polygons, okay? Looks like slightly more high resolution Lego character. Okay? Like trapezoid boob, possibly pentagon butt. You know what I'm saying? Like a icosahedron hair. If you don't know what that is, then you gotta go study mathematical 5th grade geometry with my daughter. Anyways, and so, but the modern characters have more polygons. Like the second picture, there's so many polygons you can't even barely see where all the polygons are. It just looks smooth. Okay, so that's. I'm sorry I have to explain. I'm an old boomer core 40-year-old millennial eldritch antediluvian person. So, anyways, okay, now I'm gonna Charpasoid movie. Yeah, watch the Alexander anime. It explains it though. Yeah, so that's what polygons are. Okay, so that's what when you say low poly. So Terminus Cyberstar is low poly, meaning it doesn't have as many polygons as modern games that have very smooth 3D characters that look like they're almost, you can't even see the edges on them, right? They're not like rigid, blocky cutouts that kind of look like the thing, or a Minecraft person is voxels, right? Meaning pixels in 3 dimensions. Anyway, I'm gonna stop playing game design shit. It's probably not the most interesting for people. Let me get the thing that Holly just sent me. Give me one moment. Just turned it off. Don't forget, Neofeud. While I go find pictures of myself from 1990s or 90's, don't forget Neofeud is on sale and does support everything that we do here. Actually, you know what? Let me just take a quick break, and I'll be right back as I go track this thing down. Watch the Neofeud. If you appreciate the stream so far, if you find it entertaining, funny, educating, edifying, enlightening, orgiastic or anything, I don't know what that means, but if anything good comes out of the stream for you, please consider checking out, picking up the game, direct support through Ko-Fi, as well as Patreon support, and of course just grabbing any and all the games, especially Neofeud. And I'll be right back after this.
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You and whose army, princess? You and whose army?
So don't forget, Neofeud is already out. You can go get it on Steam or on itch.io. And yeah, also as I said, I got lots of these podcasts. I'm gonna try to restart some of them and talking to some creators of retro games. Maybe I'll get to talk to the creator of the Hedon game, or Hedon game that I was just talking about for the last hour. But now I will go and show you. Now I have found the pictures of myself, as I said, as a demon. So this is not the only time. Full disclosure, part of it is I was disappointed that like my Hawaii thread, I'm not disappointed that my Hawaii thread got like 3,700 likes and what it is, 137,000 impressions. I mean, I'm happy because that's important stuff for people to know. I want to talk about that in a second. But I'm also disappointed because I spent many hours working on this and like almost just only 50 people liked it. And so I need more validation. You know, I'm just very insecure about this. So, and I'm only half joking about that. God damn it. Somebody's tell me that I made a cute thing. Anyways, but, and also, play the game as well because I do like the game. But anyways, but also, this is not the only time I dressed up as a demon. So this is the most recent, the Hedon cosplay that I did. And also, I just want to say the creator of the Hedon, the Hedon creator, did like that as well. So that's cool. And does follow me also on 2 accounts. I have 2 accounts on the Twitter, but this is the original Silver Spook cosplay as a cyber demon. I think this was from like 2000 or something. I don't know. So as you can see, I think I was a lot scarier back then. I may have accidentally disemboweled myself with a chainsaw. I don't know what's happening between my rib cage and my legs. Fun fact: those legs were actually made out of cardboard. I think it was brown paper bags, and one of them painted silver for the legs, and then a cardboard multiple barrel rocket launcher arm, if I'm not mistaken. So Strin says, "On your 54 like on Twitter." Well, thank you very much, Strin. Thank you for validating my cyber demon / orc chick character. Thank you very much. Holly knows all the cyber demons. Yeah, we weren't married yet. I wasn't in Hawaii. I dressed up as Ruby Gloom in the ear. Oh yeah, and there's another one. Also, thanks, Big Teal, about the Neofeud stream as well. Thanks for checking it out. This is even before that. This was me being a gangsta Hellboy. With Holly actually made the right hand of Doom. I don't know if you can see that, but Holly did like an amazing job with paper mache. You can't see the whole hand there, but Holly had paper mache and red paint and black paint and put the whole right hand of Doom together for Hellboy, and also made the Hellboy, classic pistol. And Holly was Ruby Bloom. This is like we were like little babies. Well, slightly older than babies, but we were like which is like over 10 years ago. Over 13, 14 years ago. Halloween 2010. 13 years ago. So as I said, like, this is not the only time I've ever played the demon character. I've been doing this for a long time, So it's Hellboy, Cyber Demon, Hellboy, Cyber Demon. Where's the other one? The robot one? No, I never did Laura Croft. But I had the Silver Spook robot cyber. That's mathematics. But Cyber Demon, Hellboy, and so this demon is just the next demon. The only difference is this is a femme demon instead of a masculine demon. Anyway, and that's a good way to segue into when I said I was going to talk about 90s throwbacks, Mega Revival, and Crystalpunk and Badass Demon Girls, but also talking about Hedon from a queer indigenous perspective. So in case you don't know, so as I said, I am a non-binary person, as well as a native Hawaiian person. And so, let's talk a little bit about that since we're already there. So in case you don't know, so Hawaii is a place that is like a Disneyland-like resort built over indigenous communities and our ancestors' graves, made to do bastardizations of sacred dances in sexy feather headdresses and entertain rich tourists for starvation wages, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, drinking jet fuel poisoned water. So if you don't follow me for the political stuff, this is, this is often what I'm talking about because this is real problems that we have here. The water is poisoned by the United States military. Jet fuel and PFAS is being which is cancer causing forever chemicals have been and are continuously being spilt into the water as the U.S. military expands its presence among a whole host of other problems. including Hawaii tops the U.S. in police killings, disproportionately for Pacific Islander. By far the most economically unequal state in the United States is Hawaii, worse than any LA, New York, DC. Even though you wouldn't know that because the tourism industry lies to you. Global capitalist U.S.-backed tourism industry is lying to you with every Hawaii 5-0 and every Blue Hawaii and every 51st Dates you ever watch. Hawaii leads the U.S. in the school-to-prison pipeline. The U.S. banned Hawaiian language, nearly extinguished it. Less than 100 children spoke my Hawaiian language in the 80s. The list goes on and on. I talk about it very frequently, so I'm not going to belabor that. Speaking of billionaires, I mean, Hawaii has the world's highest concentration of billionaires in terms of land ownership. Take your pick. Jeff Bezos, $50 million he spent in 1 week buying up after pretending to care about Hawaiians by donating to local charities. Zuckerberg owns entire reservoirs as our water is being toxified and unpotable. An entire island is uninhabitable after the U.S. military bombed it to uninhabitability, Kaho'olawe. And then the billionaires come in and they buy up the remaining water reservoirs and sell the water back to Native Hawaiians at $6 a gallon. Just think about that. So white capitalist American billionaires come to Hawaii, buy up the land and the water, toxify the land with the U.S. military and their own malfeasance, and then sell the water back to us at $6 at the most overpriced rate, basically anywhere in the so-called United States. And so, long story short, when I talk about indigenous experience, the colonial experience it's an occupying force, destroying us in so many ways, and has destroyed us in so many ways. And Neofeud itself is a game about the main character in Neofeud, right, is a homeless social worker trying to help impoverished children. But the reality is, Hawaiians are some of the most impoverished and the most homeless in our own homeland, right? This is not historical. This is ongoing. Children are still being punished, even in 2022, for speaking Hawaiian like this girl. If I find the teacher and the principal and the United States state of Hawaii gets reprimanded, punished, something for this crime, this genocide, cultural genocide, I will stop posting this picture. But the United States has not stopped trying to crush Hawaiians. So what do I mean by a queer indigenous perspective, right? Right? This is how Hawaiians are treated today in Hawaii. Right? This is how Hawaiians are treated. Warrants arrested when you refuse to speak English. If you try to speak Hawaiian in court, they take you away. All right. So Neofeud is a game it's about general cyberpunk and poverty and systems I've already talked about. But on another level, it's also about my experiences of growing up in Hawaii's ghetto, being a teacher for poor homeless refugees, mostly non-white children in slums of Hawaii that the tour buses avoid. And the sales of the games do go to keeping a roof over our head and keeping on doing this education work. That is another thing that we do. From a career perspective, another fun fact is that I am also, as I said, I'm a non-binary queer person. So I'm not sure what that person on Twitter was saying. You're saying that you can't be queer and indigenous. I mean, that's indigenous people from a Western perspective don't abide by non-binary genders and cis heteronormativity. So I'm actually not even sure what this person was saying, but I'm trying to find that one quote that I have that anyways, so if you don't know, like non-binary, trans, gender fluid people and queer people in Hawaiian culture, like Mahu, which is a third gender in Hawaiian culture, do play vital roles in our resistance against colonization and U.S. genocide of we Hawaiian people. Binary gender is a Western imperial concept that was forced upon us. So, I have that, I have an entire, I'm not going to go on a whole thing about, but I do have another Instagram that's just about talking about those topics, and also just presenting however I feel like presenting as a non-binary person, which is sometimes I present masculine, sometimes I present feminine, and that's just how I am. That's part of my non-binary-ness, right? That's part of my queerness. I often alter my presentation, in the streams, I've been doing this for years. People just, if they selectively choose not to see it, then maybe that's their bigotry manifesting itself, and I feel like sometimes that's what it is. But I've been doing this for years. It's not the first time I've done these sorts of things. often alter my own presentation in support of LGBTQ plus rights generally, but this is also about self-decolonization and reclamation of gender-fluid Hawaiian culture that was stolen from myself. When I was born, mahu was a bad word, right? To be mahu, to be trans or gay, and certainly to be mahu was a negative thing. It was used as a slur to attack Hawaiian culture and to attack non-cis straight culture and people, you know, which is part of the colonization process. Anyway, so and so, you know, how does that relate to the game? And so part of the thing that I liked about one of the things that I liked about the game is that the Hedon, the video game, it is like from the perspective of it's a non-dude main character is number one, and the characters in the game that are all like the sympathetic characters for the most part, they're basically a matriarchal society. They're like, I think they're kind of like Amazons, which is you know, it's not exactly the same as Hawaiian society, but they're definitely a not patriarchal society. And so like, and they're also like very much like the characters are very much in tune with nature. They like they're very like nature centered, and they like are tending to the earth. And actually the earth starts to die when demons kind of disrupt the enemies, disrupt the orcs system, and then things start to die and the pestilence kind of sets in. And you know, so just, I mean, obviously I'm not saying like that's what was intended by the creator, but like in the game when you're like playing the character, it feels like it's the character and the culture that the main character and the underworld naturalistic orcs are coming from is more like native indigenous culture than not, you know what I'm saying? And so whether that's intended or not, so that was another thing that I kind of liked about it. And that the main character is and also like I mean, I'm probably just old 40-year-old and I haven't played a lot of first-person shooters and video games that have been released in the last 10 years, 15 years. But you know, I did appreciate that like the main character was not just some, you know, just another big muscly kind of toxic emotionless white dude. You know, it's like it's a you know, it's a different body type female character playing this role. And so it was you know, and so for that reason I liked it a lot. And also it's kind of like I don't know, again, I don't know if it's intended, but I mean it's a very much and I believe canonically the character is canonically the main character Zan is trans, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be incorrect about that. And so you have a trans, very like indigenous like female main character killing a bunch of like Nazi looking scrawny white pale shitty dudes invading your territory. It's kind of like, you know, you know, I mean, again, it's just like when I'm playing it, that's it kind of like feels like more where I'm coming from as a native Hawaiian indigenous queer person under the US imperial occupation and ongoing genocide and military threat and also military poisoning of our water, right? And fascist policing, school to prison, all this shit I'm always talking about, right? So from, you know, whatever was intended, like that's what it feels like to me. So that's what I mean by it reads in that way more so than, I don't know, just your average first person shooter. And when I say average first person shooter, I say that having not played a lot of them recently. So maybe everything is just more maybe everything has become more progressive and less crappy from the early 2010s or 2000 late 2000s, like when I was still playing them and not really into them. But I don't know. It's because I haven't played like tons of them. I have played Ion Fury, and I have played Ion Fury. Obviously, I played GZ Doom, but you know, I haven't been playing tons of them. Partially because I'm trying to finish all my own games. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, so you know, that's kind of that's when I said like from a queer indigenous perspective, there's lots of things that I appreciate about it. Those are the kind of things that I was talking about. Big T's like make it make sense. I don't know. Some colonists, Westerners know what the fuck they're smoking sometimes, and I say that having been socialized as one. So anyways, but long story short, so that I don't. People are like, "What the hell are you even talking about?" So like this, I never even heard of this game. And so part of that is like, of course you haven't heard of this game. You heard of Doom, right? But if you don't know, it is a more niche game. Neofeud and Terminus Machina are two games that are also probably most people haven't heard about. These are throwback shooters. So like, let me see if I've actually played any. So I played this one. I've like heard about a lot of these. I do want to play this one when Celico comes out. That's one I've been keeping an eye on as well. Scythe, Power Slave. Ion Fury I have played. Yeah. I think I've played Dusk. I think I've played Dusk and Ion. It was either was it a medieval? Maybe it was a medieval. It was one of those like id Software like, or maybe it was actually one of the original 3D Realms. It might have been a 3D Realms game. Like there's like all these 90s studios coming back, or 90s studio or fans producing 90s studio like games coming back. And so I haven't played all of them, so maybe they're better. But that was just some stuff that I liked about this other one. Said the thing. What did I say? Anyway, I'm trying to keep up with chat, but I'm like 3 minutes behind. Oh, long story short, yeah. I should just say short story long. Short story like 50 minutes too long. But anyway, so there's lots of games that are out there that you can play. I'm gonna try to get to more of those games. Try to get to my games like Neofeud, because we gotta sell them so we can stay in business. But also, other thing I want to kind of mention is that Alexander, the person, for the Deus Ex fans, because I know we got plenty of them. There's a lot of things about this game that I like, but another one is that Alexander Brandon, or also known as @FunkyRustic, who is the audio director of Frost Giant Studios, did the music for Deus Ex, and also voice acted on all these different things. Alexander Brandon did music for Hedon as well. So there's this song, I remember it from the Deus Ex soundtrack. It's called Conspiravision. There might be some hardcore Deus Ex nerds in the chat, but maybe not. But I remember from the B. It was a B-side unused song in Deus Ex. I listen to the Deus Ex soundtrack frequently. And so that B-side and several other songs, I think Alex might have actually composed some music, but for sure there is music from, and he also worked on Unreal, right? So that 90s mod tracker music is in Hedon, and it was a real head trip. I was like, holy shit! It almost, sometimes it like feels like an undiscovered, like sometimes like Hedon like feels like an undiscovered 90s game that I just for some reason missed, but it's not. It's just a game that is inspired and based in large part by those games, and it literally has the guy who did the Unreal music in it. So that was like really nostalgic. Anyways, so that's probably good. Yeah. Anyways, so that's I think that's basically all I want to say. Don't forget that we will be coming back in the afternoon. In the evening at I shouldn't say exactly when, because I might not be up at the exact. We're aiming for like 8 o'clock Pacific time, but it might be a little bit later. We're trying to aim, because it seems like people are, it's getting a bit late when we're starting at 9 Pacific time. But we'll be back later. Don't forget, everything, of course, is always supported by the sales of the sales of the System Shock remake are supporting us. No, Neofeud. The sales of Neofeud do go to support everything that we do here. Don't forget to subscribe, like the stream, help us out with all those things that help the games and the streams get seen. It's like Disco Elysium, but with more cyberpunk characteristics. It's like Stray, but without a cat protagonist. It's like Neofeud is like Hedon, but without a demon chick protagonist, and it's not a first-person 3D game. But it does have adventure gaming characteristics. And Neofeud is also a game that you can get on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It is on sale on itch as well as on Steam. So help us reach the $600 goal. It's a game that is also maximum revenue comes to us when you grab it on itch because of the way that the cut happens and the revenue split. There's also decolonators where you kick. Because sometimes I was dunking on capitalism. I mean, eventually I'm going to get to Goodbye Lenin. But, since I didn't talk about Goodbye Lenin, if you want, like, just straight up, Marxist-Leninist education in a video game format, let's say you're like, oh, I couldn't quite get Luna Oi's, actual Vietnamese left curriculum that Luna recently translated into a book. You want a game by Luna Oi, the great Vietnamese educator. This is the game that Luna helped me work on. And, Indigenous Carl's Jaw also just recently got a show on a major network, so that's pretty cool. Carl is one of our Chinese comrades. But anyways, Indigenous Star is another game from a native perspective, set in the world of Neofeud. Pigeon with Gun is a game where you fight giant robot gajillionaires, bougie F-16 pilots, heart-stealing Valentine card liberal politicians, and tons of cops in a video game, and is set in the world of Kate Nix's Lounge that Holly works on. And also, Woman is a book by Holly that is a story about dealing with being raised in right-wing evangelical Protestant Christianity. And it is not a historical retelling, but it is a work of fiction that lends a different perspective to what is usually read. It is also free, or you can throw some money when you pick that up our way. And of course, don't forget, you can support us at patreon.com/Neofeud. And so at patreon.com/Neofeud, you can also get access to the Silver Spook Discord, get access to behind the scenes of what we're working on, Silver Spook University, which is like all the mountains and oodles of hours of content I've put out there, organized by categories and topics. And also, just know that you're supporting Landback and making really cool indie games and journalisms, such as Neofeud 2, which I'm still working my butt off to finish when I'm not dressing up like hot demon chicks. Anyways, you can also find Silver Spook Games at Silver Spook Games at Octodon.social, at Silver Spook Games at Mastodon.social, at Silver Spook Guy on Twitter, at Silver Spook Games for the game stuff on Twitter, and we have like Instagram and Facebook. As I talked a little bit about earlier, don't forget Terminus Cyberstar is one of these retro 90s game throwbacks that is in the vein of Deus Ex and System Shock, as I explained at length, and it is also a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim. It is also a game that is I am the content director and the lead writer of. It is coming soon. It is I'm actually looking very much forward to playing this game. Aaron Victoria, who is the producer, was telling me just like some of the new things, and I was like, depending on what time of day it is, it adjusts whether you can succeed at missions because of the shadows and darkness. And I was like, well, that sounds really cool, and really in-depth immersive sim gameplay. So I'm looking forward to that. It's just basically like they've been really working to polish. Like I said, it is tough to make an immersive sim. You got to really test a lot and polish a lot. So, yeah, if you want to follow Terminus Cyberstar at Terminus C, join the Discord if you would like to do that. And finally, don't forget, you can also follow Holly at the Tech Fairy. Holly at the Tech Fairy. Holly is a poet, educator, also queer mod, etc. for myself, married to myself, producer and manager. Also, Holly's also my style department. Here's another picture of me not presenting in a masculine format, and Holly helps with that as well. Holly is also producer and manager of KNX TV, at KNX TV, a weekly Goblin Gatherings handmade in Lancaster, PA by Kate Nix. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, technically it is handmade in Lancaster, and it is a monthly interactive variety special that Holly is involved in a lot of these Sunday shows called Bug Soup on this channel, and Holly produces for that show, so check that out. Also, Holly is parent and administrator and a very important part, obviously, the other half of the Silver Spook games, or the other quarter if you add the other two spooks, the mini spooks. And Holly also tweets important stuff like this, so follow Holly. And finally, thanks Big Tio. Thanks Strin. And thanks Holly for moderating as always. Thanks everybody for dropping in there. Oh yeah, thanks of course all of these Patreons that have supported us in all of this work that we do here. Without your support, this is difficult, if not impossible, to keep doing because stuff costs money. We just did our taxes. We did a lot of adulting this week. Did our taxes. Holly and I, we as I said, I had to get my I'm serious business gender on. Like that's the real gender concerned people are people who like dress up in their suits and their office clothes. That's the real gender, is what you dress in every single day. That's the real gender extremist. Well, so we did our office and tax work, and the Patreon contributions were a very significant, important part of that to help us keep on being in business. 6 years in business, Silver Spoon Games, 6 years in business. Most businesses in the U.S. fold in 5 years or less, so we've already outlasted most of these clowns. So thanks a lot to all you patrons, and we'll be back in the evening for more fun. Keep your mirror shades polished. Keep your mirror shades and your fast smashing axe polished. Keep your demon horns polished. Keep your homeless cardboard above your head when you're hacking the plutocracy. And we'll see